Hello everyone and welcome to the UKEL. We're into losers bracket third round and into our final weekend of the split. I'm Viper and joined for the first time for myself by Reclamation over there, and we're going to be taking you through London United as they take on Lucent.
Pleasure as always. And we have a really interesting game today because this is the start of what would be now going into our finals as we get Lucent versus London, and then later on in the day, the winner of this will move on to face Viperio. And I promise you there's going to be some bangers in this one. It's going to be a really interesting series.
Yeah, there's going to be some really exciting games going on today, of course, as well. The winner of this game, I believe, will take a spot in the relegation series just due to conflict of interest with the two Demise rosters and Demise Academy, of course, already in that final, which will be taking place tomorrow. But we've been talking a little bit about these teams. Reclamation, Lucent coming in, a new organisation, but a very well-known team coming into playoffs here. And of course, London United, the old stalwarts, have been playing with the same roster for these last two splits. And both these teams pretty happy to have made this top four position.
Great. And for anyone that's watching, Lucent is technically now what was formerly Hive. It's the same players that have moved over from the organisation. So if you were watching during the regular split, you'll know these players instantly as soon as you see them. They're the team that were taking down Demise Academy. They're the team that were contesting up at the spots, but just weren't finding their form in the last four kind of parts of the week of the split. And then we moved on and we saw London United, who have, as you said, been together for 2 years now. And you're really looking at that team and saying, okay, you've had 2 years together. Let's see where we go. Let's see if they can hit that UKEL spot.
Absolutely. And it's really the case of both of these teams have quite a lot of expectation going into the split. Lucent being this team of very well-known players at this level, a lot of previous UKEL champions back when they were on NSG, and for London United had a decent run last time, got into the top four, but then didn't make it too much further than that. Once again, they snuck into the top four by the skin of their teeth. They avoided relegation and got top four in the same 2 games on the final day of the season, which is how mad this league can be. But it's the case of they've been together for quite a long time, as you said, and they've got this chemistry, they can gel together very, very well, and the question has to start being how far can they take this exact roster as we move into our first pick and ban phase of the day.
So, quick little thing for everyone that's watching, we are on 11.6, which is the most recent patch, and that means that Volibear is back, Silas is new, and there's going to be some funky things coming out, which we may see throughout the series. But as we're starting out here, Corky Ban going over to London. They have played that quite a lot previously as a safe carry mid lane, and then Vayne God living up to his namesake and getting a Vayne ban in return.
Yeah, it's the classic of a couple of teams being like, we can deal with Vayne God's Vayne, and then they can't. So has to be banned away, and Corky taken away from Articuno. It's one of the comfort picks for London, and a very, very strong champion on this patch in his own regard. So definitely just worth taking him off the table. And Articuno has been a pretty not coin flip player, I wouldn't say, but has been a player that hasn't had the most consistency. So taking him away from comfort, and of course the Seraphine going away as well, would definitely help Lucent's chances.
So there's 2 things here. If you think about Kumkum, you think Ezreal, Kai'Sa, and then a number of other champions that are basically all really good lanes for Vayne. So it's also a double point in the sense that it's something they kind of have to ban throughout. Rel first ban makes sense if you're going to look for our first pick. She's extremely strong right now. And then Seraphine on blue side, I'm not the biggest fan of. However, that just suggests that they're not looking to play it themselves, and they don't really want to hand it over to a red side R1 and R2. Hecarim taken away here from Marwa. Engage champion taken away. Trying to just take away some of the easier options.
Yeah, removing stuff that we've seen be very, very powerful. The split a couple of champions have, of course, been nerfed slightly, Hecarim being one of them, but it's definitely not being taken out of the equation, and Udyr will be removed as well. So one bear off the map, and it's going to be Fresh being locked in for Lucent.
Okay. Now, my worry here of seeing this is that you then open yourself up to a Caitlyn Morgana route, which is kind of horrible. But there is also the opposite, where you can opt in to just take Karma and then continually push in Thresh. See what they decide to do. If they do go Nautilus, we'll just end up with a soft counter, and they're still deciding now. It looks like they're going to go for an Olaf route.
Yeah, going to be over their jungle rather than their support on that choice at least. And Olaf, interesting champion, has kind of fallen out of that really top echelon of junglers, but with a couple of champions above him, the Lily, the Hecarim, both seeing nerfs in the last patch, he might look to make that step back up, but with new champions like the Volibear coming into full force now as well, it could be difficult for him, but still a very, very decent pick, and it will be that Nautilus being knocked in alongside.
So what you need to look at this here is Olaf is still fundamentally the same in early game until he hits what would be like 15 minutes plus to 20 minutes plus when his healing got reduced. But also a lot of his items have actually been touched on in recent patches. So I'm not a biggest fan of Olaf in this rotation, and this is what I wanted to see. So Volibear flex in terms of being able to play at jungle and top because of the recent changes at 11.6. In jungle, for anyone that doesn't know, his W now enables healing again on minions and monsters, as well as his E is now capped at 750. So it's a lot more versatile than his first clear. And really, he's just kind of a meatball. So Olaf is going to be okay with this. It's not really going to screw him over early, but Volley is also going to say it's an Olaf, I'll be fine.
Yeah, it's one of those things where Olaf's going to have a decent time if there's an early scrap, but past that, Volibear is just going to be too big and too much to handle. And the Kai'Sa is going to be the answer for Vayne God as well. It has the last pick for Lucent in their first round, and it is going to be that Ezreal. As we said, Kum loves this champion, and that one's locked in.
Now, I'm not the big. This is also another really big. I'm not the biggest fan of picking Ezreal into Kai'Sa when you're given a counter pick, but for player preference and also what they might be building in their composition, fair play. I mean, it looks like right now they could have taken a stronger ADC for themselves, and then you basically just have Nautilus and plus that AD plus Olaf then pathing towards them, and you go for a strong 2v2. And as we see the bans coming out, Zillion thrown away to Nice Guy Dom, also a connoisseur of the time machine himself. And then Wukong on the other side, banned away. So we're just seeing target bans aimed at the specific players here. Camille taken away.
Suggests that they might think that it will be Wilhelm taking the Volibear rather than it going into the top lane. But of course, Lucent, the only team in this draft so far who have picked themselves up a flex. So it's very, very clear exactly where everyone from London United is going to go unless they want to throw a real curveball. They've just got their solo lanes to lock in next. But they've got themselves the counter pick, of course, being on that red side, whether they want to be getting that top or mid. Do you have a preference on which lane you'd prefer to see them lock in now?
If they're going to play Ezreal in bot lane, that suggests they want to take Nautilus and make him roam away from said lane and then start roaming into other places. So I would expect mid lane here and then top counter coming in. And maybe they take an Orianna here, it's nice with Olaf, or they go an opposite route. But if they try and blind pick Mordekaiser out of all the champions available, then they might run into problems here if they put Volley into jungle and then you've just basically blind picked Mordekaiser.
It's a brave lock-in, giving themselves the mid lane counter matchup. They've got stuff for Articuno to pick. They've got the Orianna, the Anivia is still available for his namesake, but it will have to be a case of where Hive decide to put their eggs and which champions they decide to show. And it's going to be the Twisted Fate first in that mid lane, and now we're going to have to see where this Volibear will take up residence.
Now, if they decide to go with the top lane counter, that would make more sense to me because they've just basically picked Mordekaiser. So I'd expect a carry to come out here and say, okay, let's scrap. We have TF6, he can come and support me in top lane, and I can just play through top. Kai'Sa Thresh are going to be fine with this. Kai'Sa versus Ezreal on his own, wonderful for Kai'Sa. Thresh roaming away, and now you're going to start to see TF basically going, okay, we'll accept the skill gap. Let's bring it on.
It's going to be the Anivia being the lock-in for London, so Articuno getting onto pure comfort, and as you said, they want to go for something that maybe a little bit more carry, someone who likes the scrap. Aatrox, of course, is the epitome of all of that, and will be going to that top side against the Mordekai's, confirming that it will be a bear in the jungle.
Now, I'm okay with the Anivia. It's going to scale in the meantime. I mean, if you're looking at the overall compositions here, Lucent more than likely have enough tools to play through their early game. Like you have Twisted Fate gold card, you have Volibear Q, you've got Thresh Hook, like plenty of single target CC that you can play around in your early laning phase. Yes, when they maybe hit mid game, they are going to struggle a bit. Kai'Sa, Aatrox are going to be dealing damage, but you've got Volibear and TF that are dealing some AP, but it depends on what kind of build the route they go for, where they may struggle for a bit of AP later on. And on the opposite side, I mean, you've got London United playing to their strengths. I mean, if you ever turn around and said which team is the best team fighting team in the league, you might have London in there as your consideration for being up there as like number one. So Anivia, Ezreal, like how are you meant to siege against this? Like they could just sit there and absorb waves. So
yeah, for sure. And it's very, very interesting because we talked a little bit before we came on about how these two teams like to play. And they picked compositions that basically epitomized their own styles. They said London United love their team fighting, love getting together as five and trying to get results that way. They want to be the team that takes the fights, takes the objectives, and scraps around everything that they possibly can because their ability to do so is better than most other teams in this league. But for Lucent, they love early game. They love moving into mid game and dominating in these areas, especially again around objectives because they're so good at having that macro dominance and at taking skirmishes when they're around Dragon and around Rift Herald. But late game for Lucent, they do tend to struggle a little bit to close out because unless they've got a massive lead, they don't necessarily know how to turn the dominance that they've gained into a win. So with the composition they built, it is very much let's get that lead early, let's move into mid game very, very strong because if you've got a 7,000, 8,000 gold lead and a couple of dragons and a Rift Herald, it's not that hard to close out the game.
Yeah, the ability to brute force at that point. Any decision becomes a good decision. And then we get an LPL game where it's just like, hey, we've got 60 kills. Perfect. On the other hand, though, if we're actually going to look at this, I actually like London of what I think they're attempting to look at. So if you address their strengths and say, okay, we have a Nivea Ezreal going to team fighting, but then you also have the opposite where you look at what Lucent is strong at. They've picked Olaf and then taken something like early game onus to basically build a bridge from their early game to their mid to late. They've got something there that now can contest on that Drake priority. They can contest in early lanes. If Lucent want to try and say, okay, let's take a 2v2, let's take a 3v3, and you have an early game Olaf, that presents a lot of problems. So Lucent do have the onus on them to create a lead. They do or should be the ones in the driving seat. They should be the one trying to dictate the pace in the early game. But, big but, there is still an Olaf. There's still potential that London could flip that, and then you've got a real problem because they're accelerating from early into a better mid to late game. So,
yeah, absolutely. And this is something that I do like about the way that some of these teams have started to adapt in drafts in UKEL. At the beginning of the split, it was very much, hey, what's our game plan? How are we going to play League of Legends? And let's just draft the perfect composition to do that. Let's draft complete front to back. Let's draft complete split push. We saw a couple of games in the middle stages of the season where it was like, let's draft complete poke and see if Jason Nidley and Varus a couple of times can really get going and work under tower. And sometimes it did, sometimes it didn't. But seeing the adaptation and going like, does Olaf team fight particularly well? He's fine in team fights. He can avoid getting CC'd and put out a decent amount of damage, but he's not going to be that perfect team fighting jungler that you could see from a couple of champions, even around him in terms of power level right now. But creating that bridge, you say, giving the opportunity for London to survive long enough to get into the mid game, get to the team fighting area where they are strongest, it's definitely a smart adaptation.
Precisely. And as we are just loading into game in the background, I'm really thinking about more so what I'm looking at. TF is going to be like the person they need to play around. Like as soon as he hits 6, I want to see his ultimate usage. What is his investment to make things happen for his team? Previously, we have seen that he is historically very good at doing that. And I will give him like his respect, I guess, would be the best way of putting this, in saying that if he hits 6, I trust him to make leads for this team. So, but I also trust that Arcuno on the other side is playing his namesake and also will scale up to be a monster. So you've got an immovable object on one side and an unstoppable force on the other. What's going to happen?
It's going to be a very, very close game. And we know that these two teams are really good because they made top 4 in regular season. They made top 4 in our playoffs as well. And it is credit to the way that this league has gone about that the top 4 teams in regular season are the top 4 teams in playoffs. And you could talk about how format aids that, and it's double elimination. Of course, teams will start lower and only get fewer options. But these two teams will want to be grabbing that top 3 spot. Will be wanting to get the opportunity to play into the UKLC relegations because honestly, the level of play in the UKL versus the UKLC at the median, at the regular level of play, this time around has been the closest that we've ever seen it.
Yeah, it's steadily increasing, and that is a very nice thing to see. Now, as you said, to put this into perspective for everyone about why we're going into like so much depth about this series is because, correct me if I'm wrong here, but whoever wins this series is definitely going to UKLC relegation, as promised, because Demise Academy exists. They can't go into UKLC because of their their father team, which is already in the UKLC.
Yeah, now that is correct. And Vipero, they're going up against in the losers final, who will be then going. The winner of that will go to the final tomorrow. Have already qualified for those relegations. So it's a case of if the team that's currently in the final can't go because of conflict of interest issues, and then the team that is in the losers final, so kind of like that second matchup, is already qualified themselves. Whoever they play against, regardless of result, will have to fill out that relegation roster.
So, before we load into our first game, before anything has been said or done, we've seen the draft. I'm going to put you on the spot.
Okay.
So, what is your prediction for this game and also the series?
That's a tricky one. With both teams playing to their strengths and building to their strengths, I think this game will go to Lucent.
Okay.
Because Nice Guy Dom's a monster, and putting a lot of onus on how this Twisted Fate plays in the early stages, you're putting a lot of weight on a very, very strong player. And I think that they might just have enough. I really love what London United have built, but my gut is telling me that by the time they get into team fights, if all has gone well for Lucent, they'll be a little bit too far behind to really get that play off. I would be happy if I was wrong, but I don't know if I'm going to be. In the series, though, I think it's going to be a 2-1 either way. I'm not sure which team will take it, but I can't see this one only being 2 games.
Okay. So you're predicting we're going to go all the way?
Yeah.
All right. I mean, that's a fairly safe bet. I'll give you that.
I haven't said very much, like...
I won't teeter on the edge, and I say that Lucent win 2-0.
Oh, okay.
And I will look at this and say that I think London will not get to their team fighting stage. This is completely unfounded, not on analysis or anything. This is just purely throwing it out there, and I'm willing to take some Twitter like lash later on when I use this and I get it completely wrong. But
more like you're willing to take some impressions, is what I'm hearing. But in the early stages, what should we keep our eyes peeled for as we have moved on to the Rift?
So, volatile matchup in top lane is probably your best bet for anything that's happening in terms of who is going to end up with the advantages. So we're really going to be looking towards that top side in terms of what we're going to be looking for, who's going to kill each other, who's going to end up getting pushed. And then the alternative here is you're seeing Olaf path towards bot to top, in respecting that, trying to play towards Mordekaiser. And then you have Volibear doing the opposite, realizing that their 2v2, in terms of Olaf, Mordekaiser versus Aatrox and Volibear, is going to be weaker. So, you're now going to see a Volibear path towards bot lane, and try to properly play through Kai'Sa and Thresh's priority. I think we're just going to get a trade-off.
It would seem that way, of course. It is on Lucent a little bit to take the early game onus and to command the tempo of the game, because if they go into the middle stages even, then the team fighting stage that you said that London United might not be able to get to in a good position, and I agreed with you to some extent. If they get to that point, then yeah, well, I think we do get team fights in this game, and I even think that London United might be able to pick up a couple of them because their raw ability in that field is so much better than Lucent's, or has shown to be so much better than Lucent's this season. But we have got a little bit of a pause here going through, a little bit of an issue, but we're trying to get that one resolved as soon as possible. But it gives us an opportunity to kind of really hone down into what we expect to see from this game, because we made our predictions, but for London, if they want to be bucking the trends and if they want to be showing us why we're wrong, what should they be doing in these early stages?
So, London, if they want to buck that trend, I want to see what Marwa is going to get done on this Olaf. I want to see if he's going to be pathing efficiently, being able to play through that mod. Mordekaiser, at the time of what we were seeing, was pushing in and basically either looking to do cheater recall or just keep his priority up so Olaf is able to take grab. And then Anivia is getting pushed in by TF early prio just because red card and TFQ is really obnoxious and just not a very fun time for most mid laners. It's just like, this guy's got to roam and he's pushing me in. Cool. And really, Marwan needs to get things done. Like, he needs to enable his Mordekaiser. He needs to basically tip the scales in his favor. And then that TL ultimate is then you have to like consider when he gets it 4 or 5 minutes down the line, when he goes up towards top lane, Mordekaiser's going to press R and then immediately just turn on the TF or the Aatrox and just beat the ever-loving crap out of them. And then you really got to think, so this game plan of playing to Aatrox isn't really working out in our favor, guys. What do we do?
These are the questions, and if you put the Aatrox into a bad position, if the Twisted Fate can't get the good roams into the 2v2 in the top lane because you just lose the 2v2, then things become much more difficult. And in the bot lane, is it kind of a case of no one's really going there, Nautilus is likely to leave the lane to go find work elsewhere?
Go find work elsewhere. Yeah, he's really roaming into the city to find work for himself. But in reality, I think what happens here is that it's an Ezreal Kai'Sa lane. Like, it's so hard to be able to actually punish onto the Ezreal with his shift, and knowing he has flash up as well. So then you're kind of like, okay, if we're going to make something happen, it's got to be on that Nautilus or the supports in the matchup. And if you think you're going to be able to kill Nautilus, then I've got another thing. Like, there's a real problem there because he's just going to hook onto terrain and then basically block all CC, assuming he understands that and plays it correctly. So in reality, you're really waiting on that level 6 that is in mid lane. That is the penultimate thing when you can start unlocking the rest of his teammates. But until then, it's kind of like we're just chilling out and trying to go even for the most part, or look for advantages just from skill checking. We will see, but ultimately it's going to be fairly timid unless this Olaf decides he wants to actually show up. So I'm very sorry that you're not going to be able to like yell at people.
I won't be able to scream at 4 minutes in about all of the... It's every time there's not an invade, it makes me sad. I just sit there, I see lines of Scourge being set up, I'm like, oh, okay, never mind.
To be fair, you raise a good point there. I mean, they had Olaf, they had a Nivea Q at level 1 potentially, and then you also had Nautilus, which is just obnoxious with auto attacks. I mean, there could have been potential for a late invade, which would have ruined Volibear's day. Like, Volibear Olaf matchup, like, Olaf just basically runs him over for the early game. It's not that great. But Volibear later on can get tanky enough he can deal with it, and we are back.
Back onto the rear. We've made it. 3 minutes in. Not that much has happened so far, has, you know, streamed this into a League of Legends game, but keep your eyes on the junglers, where Mauer's going to be trying to get things done, if that is what he decides to do, and where Wilhelm is going to respond. Opposite sides of the map right now, both looking to pick up a Scuttle Crab, and should be able to do it uncontested. There's not really too much priority anywhere to start a contest, and no one has felt the need to go up and help, so nice and simple, both junglers having a decent time.
Here's the thing, right? Volibear is, in terms of his tempo, much slower than Olaf on first clear. Olaf is already basing right now, and Volibear still has 1 camp to take before he can get his base off. And Olaf is already pathing back down to his bot side for his potential second clear. And it's only going to get worse for him over the next clear as well, that Olaf is going to keep speeding up and being always a camp or 2 ahead, which creates a problem when they want to contest with these Drakes and whatnot. So right now, you're seeing right now, London have a slow push wave that is coming into Lucent. If they manage to crash this, there's a real world where then they open up a Drake opportunity or a window for themselves because Arcuno's already got his base in, and so is Victorio right now with a slight economy advantage. And that means that it unlocks their TPs. So this could potentially be a skirmish window. Let's see what happens.
Have to see if Wilhelm decides to try and get anything done on the bot side. Has channeled a recall and will be leaving out, so will be the 2v2, and respect being paid by London, knowing that the Volibear could have been around. They're not shoving in too hard and too fast, but in the mid side, haven't talked too much about what's going on here, but Articuno needing to conserve his mana a little bit, does need to stay a little bit safe in this mid lane.
So, as you're seeing here, Aatrox basically got Cheer recalled on, so he's trying to get the wave crash so he can reset, but Victorio is just saying, no, I'm not going to let you, and then build another slow push into him, and then create problems. Volley is passed away, and here is your now Drake timer on the slow crash wave from bot lane.
Yeah, moved up, and with Wilhelm having to come top looking for a gank at best, and just to break this freeze and break this bad situation for Aatrox at worst, it does mean that Olaf gets completely free Dragon with his bot side, and Mountain Drake coming up early is going to be nice in the early stages for a little bit more tankiness as Victorio just wanders away from that gankaroo up in the top side from the Volibear, and with the cloud spawning, it's either going to be Ocean or Infernal as our soul this game.
Now, if you're in London side, you're probably really hoping...
We're actually going to be seeing a bit of an engage in the bot side. Root's coming down onto Vengel. We will be able to step away. Kunkum has to move back. Mauer coming through just to make sure that nothing is going to continue. And it doesn't look like anything will be. Just going to look for a recall, not necessarily trying to get a gank off himself if he can help it, as everyone moves away alive.
I mean, I'm looking at this being like, guys, just because you're landing hooks, it doesn't mean it's exciting. Like, nothing is going to happen here, unfortunately. I'm just watching it, I'm like, no, they're fighting. No, it's not, no. Oh,
like, oh, can I just, excuse me, sorry, can I just, no, oh, yeah. All right, okay.
Ooh. That was unlucky. Now, if we're looking at this, nothing really happened. It was a good Drake setup from London. They're able to work towards Drake Soul. And then, now the real big thing that we need to hit on, TF is 6. And if he is TPing back, TF clears this wave right now, and he's got a roam timer. So, let's see what he's going to be able to get done, or where he might go.
He's looking maybe towards that bot side, but there are no enemy champions there, and just maybe trying to bait out where he's looking to move. Mauer up on the top side, the Death Realm will be called, and Aatrox the World Ender is going to try and take the fight in there. The ultimate coming up top lane from Twisted Fate. It's going to be a 2v2 with Mauer alongside Damage Flash coming through. Victoria can't find the last Q and has to put up that shield. Nice going on, looking for a couple more auto attacks and maybe a Q to pick up the kill. Flashes forward with the red card, not going to be enough, and the last auto attack will also not finish off Mordekaiser. He's going to be able to step away with a pot running as Mauer does the same. No one dying on the top side. Wilhelm moved up, but wasn't able to get involved.
And as I said, this is like basically what would happen here is if Victoria ever gets ahead. I mean, he's down 20 CS for this, by the way, but he was on an economy advantage, but because he took that fight, he's got basically a slow crash wave coming into it. Now, the problem it now represents is that every time TF invests his ultimate and time up there, Mordekaiser ult comes in, completely denies him, and then basically TF is left a little blue-faced and going, okay, well, now, in return, Articuno has been given free time. Like, you saw this investment here, it didn't pay off. They're investing resources into a play that's not their own. It's a reactive play, which is really bad. Like, they need to be able to create their own leads, and I'm looking at how they're going to set that up, and bot lane can't do anything. Top is struggling, despite the CS differential. And, well, yeah, it needs to either come from the jungle matchup then, but it's Volibear versus Olaf.
And there's only one man who's causing the tempo in that matchup, and it's not the Polar Bear. But one thing that was to be noted as well is I Won't Lose had to teleport mid lane to stop Articuno getting any more of an advantage in that side. So had to burn that summoner alongside. So there's now a teleport advantage in the top side for Victoria. And with the only person having teleport on the map, this should make things pretty easy if they decide to go for any.
Olaf looking in mid here.
In the mid lane though, running on through. Nice guy Dom, stunned up, taken down. First blood going over to the bird.
So TF Flash used in the topside play, which then results in Olaf making the return gank. Executed on rather well here, as we see more fighting in topside as Aatrox is basically now getting his healing online and able to brute force through anything sent his way, as bot lane is also kicking off a wall at the same time.
But Wilhelm not able to get the slowdown off his E and is going to have to move back and away. Dragon not up, so nothing can be easily taken, but Rift Herald is, and Victoria Mauer very quick to respond to that one, seeing as the Anivia has priority because Twisted Fate just died.
So as you're seeing here, reactive play where TF tries to go for more, doesn't quite get it, and then he also hates his life for the fact that he burnt his summoners up there for nothing, comes back to mid, and then gets run over.
And the dive on bot side, but the first kill actually going to go over to the Heathen as the dive on through from Vanguard will return the kill. Wilhelm goes exceptionally known. Here's nice guy Dom. Kum might not be long for this world, looking to try and get the kill on the Volibear, but it's going to be stunned up. The ultimate flies through, but it's not going to hit the right man. It's a double kill going over to Kai'Sa. 2 for 1 in the bot lane. Decent pickup there from Lucent, but they do lose out on the Rift Herald on the other side of the map.
So they knew that we were losing prio from top and mid, so they knew Olaf would attempt to look for this, so they look for a counter punch. And then we even see another counter punch, which is going to feed more gold into Anivia, and basically we're just seeing handshakes all over the map saying, you make this play, we'll make the other on the other side, and it's just a fast-paced opening.
Yeah, it's really sped up in the past couple of minutes. Will Articuno be able to get one more plate? Yes, they will. Going to be able to fly away. Nice go Dom and Zerg both responded to the mid lane to make sure that tower didn't go down, but it was never about taking down the objective. As you said, it was about feeding more gold into Articuno as the second dragon spawns onto the map. This one could be contested, and with the Anivia having so much gold in pocket, it's going to be difficult to beat London here.
We're seeing that second Drake Soul, like they're going for the Drake Soul condition, they have tempo advantage on it, however TF is dealing with his waves and going to start moving down here, but will he be quick enough is the question.
Zerg might be caught out by the Wolf Throws out Death Sentence, but there's the hook going to land from the Nautilus, running on through. Mauer trying to get onto Wilhelm, won't be able to do so too much longer as damage is coming out from Vingord, looking to take the first kill of the fight as Cuckoo not going to be dragged on in the flash forward, will be able to pick up the first kill, but now Vingord really overextended, does go down, shutdown going over to the top lane of Victorio. Nice go down, is caught out, but the Death Sentence lands onto Victorio. Wilhelm running away for his life. Zerg gets the last whip down as a nice stun coming on through. There's still egg passive, but Articuno gets the bomb and gets the kill. He's still surviving, but even looking for the re-engage. A bit more damage coming out of Articuno. Does have blue buff rolling, so will have the mana available to take the fight, but the health bar is not looking healthy. Zerg on the other side, nice dive over will mean that the passive is popped and enough damage is coming out of I Won't Lose to pick up the kill in the jungle. Dragon will go over to Lucent, and they pick up the team fight win as well.
Damn. Like, as a question, do you do cardio for like your lung capacity?
Yeah, you know, bit of exercise bike. Good walk here and there.
I'm casting with Rat God today. But an alternative, okay, so that was a really good fight. London on tempo, they're trying to look for the Drake, and then basically they're looking at this and saying, okay, there's potential here, we look for Drake's soul, and they're playing around the Anivia, using the wall, using the stun, using the ultimate, and basically trying to use that zone. Lucent, to their credit, played around that perfectly. It was the single target CC onto the occasional targets. You saw Vangod tried to step up and say, I am a hunter, I'm going to go and kill their carries. You got the Ezreal, you got Olaf really low, he nearly killed Nautilus as well. He did tons of damage in this fight, and then basically Lucent were able to clean up following the TF, and also Volibear and Aatrox basically coming in and going man mode.
When the top side of the Nice Guard going to be in a lot of trouble. The first responder to the situation is Mauer, but a very, very quick twist of fate, looking to get away, has the ultimate available, and is going to look to gate away. Will be able to do so into his own jungle, and no kill going over to London. This time around, it's them who failed to find anything topside.
Blue say shoes. Man just decided to break some ankles today and just said, I want out. But ultimately, it's not really going to achieve much. He's off map now, which then creates problems for the rest of his team, which can't then farm effectively because he is off map. Wilhelm here, just getting a little bit of damage, just testing the waters. But really, they're going to potentially lose mid lane here as TF is coming back, and they're going to force numbers into it.
Yeah, Articuno, Mauer, and Heaven have all stepped up to try and siege, and while the minions go down pretty quickly, the tower does not. Death Sentence will land onto Articuno, and another fight will kick off. Wilhelm looking for the ultimate down and gets the kill onto Anivia. They're ripping through members. Mauer manages to pick up a kill alongside the Heathen, but with that Ragnarok rolling, he's too squishy to survive very much longer. Heathen does manage to dive away onto his own tower. But in the 3v3 fight mid, it was 2 for 1, and once again, Lucent take it.
Marwa's really starting to feel those nerfs now as he can't heal through most of the damage that's being thrown his way. So that's the effect, ladies and gentlemen, and ultimately what should have been a positive play for London, burning all the summoners and getting Nice Light Bomb off the map and being able to take mid, is completely turned, and then from a good play and roam from Zerg, and in the 3v3 doesn't go too well. And in the meantime, you've got Vangod here farming away. He's actually found himself basically 2 or 3 waves up now, and on top side, after all those kills, it's now Mordekaiser's saying, guys, I can't hold this guy anymore. And alarm bell is starting to get there, like, it's ticking.
Yeah, it's a little bit concerning. And of course, we know London are good at team fighting, but we know equally how good Lucent are in their mid-game situations. And we started to see it a little bit more in these skirmishes, and even in the first team fight of the game, they were so capable and able of ebbing and flowing back and forth and picking up kills and objectives when they needed to. So while Articuno is still having a pretty decent time in the mid lane, doesn't have passive, summoners are down flash wise, and is very easy pickings for Zerg. You can see he's also moved up once again, looking to catch out Anivia on the roam, and has spotted Articuno out. Won't be able to get the death sentence down this time, as London look to make another play topside, but with the gate coming through, and there's another really nice hook onto Articuno. He's caught in the box, will be flanked back into I Won't Lose, and Mauer will also be a lamb to the slaughter. It's the double kill going over to Lucent, and no return kill for London. Disaster in the river, as more advantage picked up by the blue team.
Really big thing here is that London are not building a bridge of vision that allows Articuno to walk safely from mid and go to a side lane. So every time he attempts to rotate, you basically have TF ultimate that's going to come in and say, okay, where is everybody? Are they alone? Zerg here manages to find him in the river. They think on London's side that they've got the catch. In reality, it's actually going to turn into what was a 2v4 with the rotations. And this is really what we hit on in that pre-talk that Lucent early game to mid with their rotations and team play there is a lot stronger than what London can bring to the table. So London are basically building themselves a mountain that they're going to have to try and climb to come back into this game. But Drake Soul and Drake, they do have control now and the position over it, so that might be an avenue where they're going to come back.
Could be an opportunity for them to try and build their way in. And as we say, they do scale exceptionally well. You've got the Anivia putting out damage, you've got the Ezreal putting out damage. If this game goes longer and longer, they will find opportunities to come back in. Of course, the Mordekaiser is going to be terrifying eventually, being able to take those 1v1s, even in the harshest of teamfight situations. However, right now, Lucent definitely the ones in control, and this is kind of where we expected the game to be at this point. It's now a case of can London weather the storm with a second Rift Herald coming down mid. They're going to be able to clear this one out pretty safely. With another dragon on the map, could be another fight.
Excellent use of Rift Herald here. So previously, London had full positional advantage in this area. They used Herald, created pressure, which then drew them out. And then basically Lucent were able to move into a favorable position here. And as we start to see this, so we should start to see Anivia maybe wall people into the pit, start putting some poke down.
Onto Ironwood, Lucy's going to be caught out. He has used the one over though as Victoria will get the kill. Wilhelm dives on him, but is taken into Death Realm and taken low. This is not the fight that Lucent wanted. They lose 2 members and are looking maybe to try and contest further. Zerg gets the Death Sentence, lands it down and manages to pick up a lot of damage on the Mara, who will fall as well. Jungler no longer available for either side as Articuno forced low. The Destiny Gate used round the side. Flash stun does not catch the priority target though. Anivia goes down, but with the egg will be able to rise. Once again, the Cryo Phoenix is back. The Dragon still exceptionally low, but no smites available from either team. It will be a toss-up as Victoria flashes forward, looking for the damage, but only finds its own death. The wall goes up behind members of Lucent, who are looking to turn the fight. Vayngod diving on forward, gets the double kill on to the Anivia, picks up the Dragon alongside. Now Kungu in a lot of trouble. Actually, it's going to be Kungu who slays the Dragon, but it's going to be stunned up, uses the cleanse, and now tries to get away. Will be able to do so for now. And Vayngod not happy to continue chasing through the Nautilus. Is the objective for London United, but a really close team fight.
Okay. The only thing I'm going to say on this that Lucent aren't doing is that Aatrox cannot go front to back. If they go front to back, it is suicidal for them. Like, they need to find a flank. They need to... What TF did when he used his ultimate to find another area to flank around, it's precisely what Aatrox should be doing to begin with. But if they fight front to back here, you're running into Ezreal, you're running into Anivia. Like, you do not want to be doing this. And London, despite the gold deficit, nearly pull that out and come back into the game with a good team fight. They got the Ocean Drake, which was the objective. So Drake's soul condition and being able to come back is still on the cards. And yes, I said that as a pun when we had TF on screen. I'm sorry.
Goodness me. The best puns are the ones that you immediately have to apologise for and explain in the same sentence directly after making them. That's what I find anyway.
I mean, I have to assume some people don't see my genius sometimes, you know. Moving on, we've got basically now it's still Aatrox in top side. He's able to get free prio in this matchup still. Seekers has come in for Victorio, however, he's pretty much got a jumble sale in his items right now, so he's kind of struggling for a first item. He's just trying to survive. And then you have TF, who's got his Everfrost complete, Turbo Chem Time for Volibear, so lots of engaged initiation for picks on rotations. And Kai'Sa now that is 6-1. She is a big girl, she is fed. Like, this Vayngod is piloting Kai'Sa here really, really well, so credit where it's due.
Headline, Vayngod good at League of Legends, who'd have thought?
I know, it's almost like these guys play the video game.
It's almost like this guy knows how to play League of Legends, which... You know, if you've watched all season, you've had a lot of examples of Vayngod being good at League of Legends. A couple of opportunities where you've seen a bit of Vayne spotting as well, but this time around, definitely not doing that. As you say, very, very powerful, has the Collector in pocket as well, so going to be able to execute those low health targets. And London right now, how do they deal with a fed Kai'Sa with their team composition?
Well, you kind of saw it, case in point, when they fight front to back. Kai'Sa's not actually really able to use her ultimate because her front line is dying quicker, and then if she doesn't have a front line, then she has to put basically her body on the line to be doing this kind of damage. So if they fight front to back like that in the next team fight, then it's not great for Kai'Sa. She can find a way in, but it's still possible. And not to mention Maud ultimate still exists. Like, Maud could quite happily just walk up and say, I am going to sacrifice my KDA for the greater good, and say that is a sacrifice he is willing to make. and take Kai'Sa out of the fight.
Yeah, removing Vayngod from the fight is removing a lot of gold away from Lucent, and then the teamfight 4v4 might be a lot more favourable for London if they can find the perfect situation. Of course, if they can find a pick, either team, I think it's going to be difficult, and Mao might be picked off here. Articuno has decided to teleport into the meat grinder, not going to have a great time, and will be going down. The stun from Nice Guy Don picks up the kill as well. Not really sure about any of this, as Victoria has also dove on in, looking for the 1v1 against Zerg of all people, but in the backside, the Aatrox is putting the damage down, trying to catch out Heathen, who will look to walk away, but Wilhelm is standing between. Victoria comes out of Death Realm to his own demise, as he's taken out on the back. We saw the Heathen fall as well. A very interesting set of decisions there from London United, as the Baron could be on the cards for Lucent now.
Those TPs sucked. Like, straight up. Articuno and Victoria with their TPs, that is the most questionable decisions you're going to see all day. And I can't fathom what they were trying to go for here. Like, you're literally TPing into the range of, like, where Lucent are trying to contest vision while your team is getting mid-prio and then moving. Like, your team isn't ready for you, and then you've gotten, like, no egg, your flash isn't available. I'm speechless.
They were very brave TPs. And the problem was they were coming in very scattered. If London had all come in at 5v5 and looked for that fight, it might have looked a little bit better, with the Mordekaiser diving in on the back and managing to pick someone up immediately with the ult. But even then, it's a 50-50 at best. And with one teleport coming through, other members not being around, it was not great. They lose out on the Baron, and insert analysis about how Kai'Sa likes Baron more than most marksmen, because it's not adaptive damage, it's both, and she likes both types, you know.
I could give you high level of analysis of that, but it would be in poor taste. And as we see here, they've given Baron over now, so there is pressure on the mid lane turret. TF could quite happily find a flank and go around. They're pushing them back up into a choke here, and Aatrox is looking for a flank from behind. You cannot contest this position. Now Aatrox here, just looking to see if he can find any snacks on the side.
Even is a tin snack trying to get away, going to be slowed up by the E, and I might lose. Still marauding forward, looking for the damage. Kum diving on through to keep his support alive, and will be able to do so this time. The dragon did go over, so win condition on the Soul looking a little bit bleaker for London United as they do lose out the second one, but it's not a disaster at the end of the day, especially considering they got everyone out alive.
Yep. I mean, I think that Baron is just like the turning point in this game now. Like, Lucent were already in the lead, but London still had a way to play the game because they could still keep clearing with Ezreal and Anivia. But now that's gone, and you're just seeing this gold lead balloon. Like, 2 turrets gone, a third one is potentially going to go in bot lane as well. And what was a 2 or 3k gold has now just completely expanded. And this game kind of feels unplayable now, like 9,000 gold behind.
Mao being caught out in the choke as well, gets taken so low. Vayngod is doing an absolute number, and Wilhelm diving on through, trying to keep the fight going as Vayngod dives into the backline, but it's going to be taken by Victoria into Death Realm immediately. Not necessarily the best players. Vayngod going to be caught up and just going to spawn back into the map amidst the members of London United. Gonna fall. It's traded 1-for-1 though as he takes down Mordekaiser on the way out. I might lose, going to try and stride away. Will be able to escape, but one Baron lost, and London survived to fight another day.
So that was a really questionable ult. Let's just put that out there. Vayngod goes in 1v5, and then Victorio, instead of letting his team just annihilate the Kai'Sa that is now standing in front of them, chose to hit its ultimate and take all the glory and dies for it. I guess this guy just wants to go to Valhalla. Like, I don't know. On the high level analysis here, we should go back to like...
Yeah, we should probably get some of that in here at some stage.
So, Lucent here went in for the Drake, and then basically were trying to build the position. They forced him out into a choke. It's no longer contestable. London back off, should try to clear their waves, but they can't do that now that Baron is available, so you now have TF splitting on one side with his ultimate covering the 4-man, while the 4-man is also pushing a bot, and then they're just rotating between both mid and bot lane to take tier 2s. What I would think would happen now is if they have anything left, they'll go for mid-prio and then basically say, okay, let's get the last tier 2 on bot side and really push them into their base. And London have to now set traps. They need to find some way of getting a pick before these kind of fights start up, because they need to buy themselves time to hit the critical mass of their item points, and they're still a fair way off. Like, Marwa, irrelevant now. The guy should just build full tank for himself, but unfortunately, 11.6, by the way, tank items slightly worse for him as bruiser tank. And the same thing for Victorio. He is just so far behind on the curve now, and you're really looking at this and saying, Articuno, Kum, save us, please. And that's been basically the same answer through the entire split for, like, the most part. So, let's see.
It's got them this far. Can it take them one game further? You can see Ezreal, of course, not picked up a Mythic, because just Ezreal things, really. Like
just Ezreal things.
Those other items first and foremost, and
if he is going to get one, it'll be Duskblade next, but I have a funny feeling he's just going to go straight to Hydra to, like, really scramble people's brains with not building Mythics. By the way, they're a pivotal thing to build and everything, by the way.
Oh, nice guy Dom going to be taken into Death Realm, but Victoria, don't know about this 1v1, putting out a decent amount of damage onto Nice guy Dom, flashing forward, trying to get a little bit more damage down. The stun comes through from Twisted Fate, who's dancing, dipping, dodging away. Picks up the kill onto the Mordekaiser. Members of London have to respond to the bot side. Can't manage to catch Nice guy Dom as he's just going to step away here.
He duck, dip, dived and dodged that one, and he's not going to get away from it.
He doesn't dodge that one, no. That's an ice core to the face, that's a flash, that's a kill. Articuno picking up another one, and the Anivia is getting much closer to being aligned than the rest of this London United squad. Is that a good thing?
Oh, precisely. Like, he's getting shutdowns. I think he's got 2 in the last couple of minutes, so he's now approaching his 4th item, which, if you're looking at that and you're inside their comms right now in London, they're going, okay guys, I'm kind of fed. I'm getting there. I'm at nearly a critical mass. Just keep holding out. Maybe we just give them this Ocean Drake. Maybe we try to hit something else later on. But TF is still dead right now. They could look for a position while he's still dead, but they need to remind yourselves that he does have TP, and there are still ways behind them for a way for basically finding a flank with that TP.
Dragon on the map, 10 seconds time. Baron already there. Victoria on top side, clearing out waves. Has teleport. I won't lose. Going to be teleporting in directly behind the London United squad. Wilhelm already there. Everyone is dropping in from Lucent. They don't want to give this objective up, and they found the flank. It's going to be a 4v5. Victoria still hasn't responded as London United have started to smell something's up and are looking for a route away. But Aatrox is standing in the door. He gets the knock up onto Kugu and dives over the wall. Articuno should be able to get away, but a nice death sentence will drag him back into the fray. Victoria is now here looking to keep Anivia alive for as long as possible. Kugu on the side, actually untouched. Mao, the first victim of the fight, as Aatrox is holding so many members at bay. The egg is dropped by Volibear, who picks up the kill alongside, and now members of London United are falling. Victoria did manage to find a kill on the backside, looking to return to the fight, but Kum drops down. It's just going to be the Mordekaiser who sneaks away. Members of the enemy team, Lucent, pick up the dragon, with Twisted Fate able to pick up a tower as well. Big swing there.
So it was close. Like, that was close. Like, in the gold context here, like that team fight, if they maybe hadn't have given that Baron away, maybe they took that fight later on, that would have been a net win for them. Like, it was so split where it looked good for Lucent being able to get onto the Ezreal, and then he basically came over the wall and then took basic Kai'Sa out of the fight. He took Volley out of the fight. Aatrox and Thresh went in on their own, and it looked good. But just the gold lead, it's so insurmountable. Like, it feels so impossible to play the game. And game of inches, and they gave away a mile to Lucent, and now any decision they make feels good. So, unfortunate. I think London at this stage might be thinking, okay, we're 10k gold down, we're not going to get to Drake Soul. It's either Baron or bust at this point, if they manage to find a pick before that and build something from it. Otherwise, you really start looking at this and saying, okay, maybe it might be time to start talking about the next game to change. It is a long series, we might see adaptation. Maybe that's too early to call, but that's what I would be talking about.
Articuno down the bot side, looking to get some more gold, still looking towards that 4th item, but with Baron on the map, it's going to be very, very difficult for London to both contest and to play the game if they lose out on this objective, which is not the optimal position, but hey-ho, when you're 11k gold down, those are kind of situations and the questions that you have to ask yourselves. The Baron has been started up, members of Lucent all around it. Teleport coming through from Articuno. They don't want to give this one up without a fight. The Destiny has been used as members of Lucent peel away, looking for a stun, looking for a pick, only find it onto Victoria, who takes a little bit of damage but will be able to walk away. Baron has reset, but it will be Lucent just moving directly back onto it and starting it up once again. No inhibitors down will make life a little bit easier for London United, but with the Baron going down so quickly, it's going to be really hard for the contest. Nice stun going down onto the Olaf. The ultimate from Ezreal is a little bit too early to attempt a steal, but it might be enough to hold them off for a little bit longer. The ultimate from Anivia burning through. This Baron is resetting though. Lucent looking to stand on both sides. London in a big death ball have to move away once again, but it is going to be restarted. 7k, 6k, 5k. This Baron is melting through. What can be done here? Damage is coming on down. I was going to look for the damage now on to the Aegis. It's going to be stolen away by Mara, and the fight will kick off. The Heathen over the wall. It looks like they might just lose the Olaf, who's walled in, but gets the kill onto Aatrox, who will be revived, but London sneak away. 4 Baron buffs in pocket. Could this be enough to help them stabilize, or will this still be it?
Absolutely. Like, as long as Articuno is alive and has mana, he can keep clearing waves to the point where basically Lucent can't do anything. But not if he decides to base here and not clear this wave, which then just breaks the base.
Yeah, base has been cracked. That's the first inhibitor of the game going down. 31 minutes in. Articuno now putting down that ultimate, now putting down that down, catching out members of Lucent. Gets a nice double stun, and the re-engage might be coming on through, and there's the kill. Cuckoo kills. Nice guy Dom. No Twist of Fate catch available as members of London United chase the interlopers out of their base. They've got Baron buff. They've got a little bit of time for themselves.
Lucent. You did so well. They burnt the TP. You could literally then have TP advantage yourselves. You back away from the Baron, you leave your position there, and then you just keep pushing waves into London while you can literally two-man Baron. They don't need to have a 5v5 contest on this. They don't need to flip it. They don't need to do anything like this. You can just play smarter and back away from the objective. Like, if London even tried to think that they can start Baron, great, now they're locked into the pit. Like, Lucent needed to play smart here with waves, and they just decided to say, whatever, let's flip it. And it didn't go well for them. Like, and now you're giving gold, you're giving experience, you're giving over to the carries, and it looks like
Wilhelm's giving up his life as the flash over the wall will survive, but only on a sliver of health. Destiny has been popped. Everyone is aware where everyone is. Will the gate be used? It will be onto the side, though, not looking for a flank unless this one is a very long-term one. Actually going to be going to clear up that top side, but members of London United feeling pretty safe to move around in this 4-1 formation. Victoria down bot, everyone else mid looking to grab an inhibitor of their own, pushing into these super minions but have Baron on their back, and his tower going down so quickly. Articuno putting in the damage, Koom putting in the damage as the inhibitor tower falls. Members of London United need to be a little bit careful on the rotation, but they're going to look to move down towards Victoria. Baron buff still running for a few moments longer, and the Death Sentence this time won't land onto the Banshee's Veil. There goes an inner tower, and London out of nowhere started coming back into this game.
So London took full control of the area by pushing all the way in, so the blue team can't move out their base. TF in the meantime is trying to split, but Mordekaiser has now arrived, and he's looking for that all-in.
I've seen this one before, and it ends with Victorio dead, trying to get the damage onto Nice Guy Dom. Has put up the shield, but the Death Realm is no longer running. This time around, though, it's Nice Guy Dom who loses out in the 1v1. The Baron buff doing just enough, giving just enough damage as members of both teams now congregating around this dragon. It will be soul point. It will be sold if Lucent managed to pick it up, and it's going to go down pretty low. Then Mauer standing directly on top, looking for that smite. Nice wall up to keep members away. Damage not going to be there as Mauer secures, and now it's going to be soul point on dragon. If either team takes the next one in 5 minutes time, does this game go that long?
It will. So basically now it presents a problem. This game is going to go even longer, and it keeps going back to that Articuno and Koom are now at critical mass where they can just clear waves for free, and you cannot do anything unless you are able to go into a 1-3-1. The problem is, though, that you've pushed all the way into their base, so 1-3-1, when you just get to Nexus turrets, surprisingly, doesn't do anything. So, really, they needed Baron to end this game. And they needed to play smartly around that Baron by using it as an objective to draw London out. They flipped it, and this is the worst case scenario now. London, despite the gold disparity, have map control. Like, the tempo is on them. They're the ones setting the pace of the game now, and you're running into, when they get a position set up, into Anivia and Ezreal. And what can you do? Lucent have to keep conceding now. They can't do anything, and the problem this creates is on the next Baron, that if it stays the same like this, London is still going to have position over it.
can see members of Lucent looking to push into the mid lane, looking to push into the bot lane, wanting to grab inhibitors if they can. Members of London have started to recall and will be able to get there for a fight in their own base if it kicks off. But Lucent, very, very respectful, don't want to be trying to force anything. They tried to force that Baron and look where it got them. Inhibitor still standing on the bot side. Mid lane inhibitor will be respawning in the not too distant future as that gem starts to coalesce once again. And now it's going to be Lucent looking. They still have the advantage in terms of what they've taken in the base, but past that, things looking pretty rough for them. One team fight is still all it takes for them to win this game, however. So they're going to want to try and find that one as soon as possible.
Absolutely. Like, let's not mistake here. If Lucent do find a way to make a pick, do find a way to like make something happen, London are playing very vicariously. They are on the edge where if one thing goes wrong, could be game ending. And that's basically the situation we have now. That both teams, we're 36 minutes in, whichever team screws up next or finds the good fight or a good flank, pretty much wins the game. That's it. And I want to see who's going to flip that coin again and who's going to land heads or tails.
Well, if we're talking about coin flips, there's definitely... I mean, both of these teams have a full coin purse from experience casting them throughout the years, and now it's going to be Baron coming up onto the map in 10 seconds time. London are the ones with the priority. I won't lose in the mid lane, trying to keep Victoria away, but members of London might be moving towards him, trying to get a catch of their very own, but won't be able to find that one just yet. London United are a little bit split over the wall. Do need to be careful that they don't get engaged on, because winner of this team fight could well be winner of this game. Best of 3 series, it should be mentioned, so not going to be losing out on the whole series and the opportunity to play in those UKLC qualifiers just yet, but it's going to be Baron started up by London United. Victoria isn't there though. It's going to be a 4v5. Destiny has been popped. A complete information known by Lucent, but they're looking to catch out Victoria on the side. The Mordekaiser goes so low, and it's actually going to be taken out. That's the assassination that maybe Lucent needed, as now it's going to be a 4v5 around the Baron. Members of London United have to back away. Wilhelm on the side could look for a flank, could look for an engage. I won't lose. Now taking
Just going for the
objective. And looking, you can see Twist of Fate there. It's going to be a 4v4 around the objective. And members of London have to back away to defend their base. This is disastrous for the boys in red right now, as Lucent should take the objective, should be able to take an inhibitor or two as well. You can see Koop coming in from the side, maybe looking for the collapse, but the perfect crime from Lucent. It took one pick. They get everything.
So the Heathen here is trying to queue onto everything so he can get his ultimate off and kill Dom. So he actually ends up just trading his flash out. But if you're London right now, you should not be basing. You should just be walking through knowing that Lucent just used everything to recall. And if you understand that, they could be getting to this river right now and setting a trap. But it looks like they're choosing to not take that risk on game understanding of the tempo because they didn't see when they recalled, to my knowledge.
It's going to be one team fight that secures this game, and it's going to be around this dragon. Lucent probably looking the more favoured of the two, have the Baron buff to help them out in the combat stats, and one overstep from anyone from London, and it's absolutely curtains. You can see them setting up in that pixel brush, in the ramp rush, trying to catch out whoever they can. Heathen will spot them out though, and now members of London are moving on forward. Dragon's not off for another 10 seconds as Kuku exposed the first ability of the fight. Now it's good on the side, could look for a stun. I won't lose, going to look to get the engage on from the other side. Has shown himself now. The Destiny Gate is available. Damage coming down as Aatrox picks up the fight, drops off a lot of health, but is still alive, looking to bring up the fight. Nice going on, picks up the kill onto Kumkum. This could well be as Arscano is forced to back away the Heathen. He's tagging him, he's burnt so low. Lucent pick up 3 members, maybe looking for another as Articuno running the wrong way up the rift, but they don't care. Victoria upside is the only one stopping them from taking objectives, the only one stopping them breaking the base, and Lucent with the kill onto Mordekaiser might have sealed themselves the first win of this series.
I was going to say that I thought this was kind of bad by Lucent to basically not just go to 1-3-1 and, you know, just push London into their base and just not risk a flip at all. But they come out and they find the flanks, they use it to basically build something positive for themselves. Yeah, maybe I don't agree with it, but it works. I can't disagree with the fact that they managed to pull out and they get the win because of it. And they're going to go 1-up in our series. But can we please talk about the fact that they had such a big lead, but once again, they're struggling to win games.
I mean, we predicted this game correctly, but for completely the wrong reasons, right? And it looked like we looked so smart for the first 25 minutes of that game, saying it's going to be difficult for London. They're going to lose a bit of a gold lead, and then Lucent are going to have a great time taking these skirmishes, having the macro. And then that's what happened. And then London decided to teleport around Baron and lose Baron. And it was like, well, this is game one. We're geniuses. Excellent stuff. And then Mara steals Baron. And the Baron play was wrong by Lucent. And then the game goes on 15 minutes longer than it should have.
Now, I'm just going to say that this is kind of like karma. It's coin flip karma. So London decided to coin flip the game with their TPs and feed it to Lucent. And then Lucent decided to say, hey, we acknowledged you gave us a lead earlier. So you know what? Let's make it interesting. And we'll give you a Baron in return. And that's called karma. So what goes around comes around, you know? Like, you're really looking at the game, and it uniquely sets us up for the second match of our series in that now, by technicality, if Lucent do this again and they pull ahead like that in early game and creates a problem for London, what are they going to answer with? Like, London is the team now that's backed into that corner saying, like, what strategy do we need to change? Do we need to change anything? Is it just the fact that we screwed up over those TPs that won't happen again? Like, what are they thinking right now?
On the back of a very strange game, Lucent are one game away from picking themselves up a spot in the UKLC relegation series. Can London United battle back and take this one all the way? Don't go anywhere. We'll find out in a few minutes. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the UKEL final weekend. I'm Viper and joined by Reclamation once again for our second game of the day. London United need a win to keep their hopes alive as they've already lost their first game against Lucent.
And we are definitely on track for my bold claim of a 2-0 and not a full series. That's
What do you
much
mean
to
we're
your
on
dismay.
track for a 2-0? That game was a 40-minute, and for like a good 10-minute period, it didn't look like Lucent actually wanted to win that game. So I would say that we're not on track for anything right now.
Come on, like that 10 minutes where it was like, hey, let's give some fiesta, make it entertaining. That's preparation for the next game where they're going to end it in 25 minutes for the first time, where they might actually end the game with the leads that they create for themselves.
I mean, this is the thing. This is something that we haven't seen from Lucent this season too much, is that when you see that team with those players, with that gold lead, you think, okay, this game is done. They brute force, they win, they're good players. But the problem with the way that they tried to close out that game around that Baron was that they were brute forcing. It was just a case of, we've got one objective, we're stronger than they are, we've got gold. Let's just keep doing this objective until we get it. And then as soon as you lose out on the objective, it allows London United back in to stabilise. And of course, they didn't manage to do that in the end. They did fall out, because how stable are you really when one team fights all it takes? As we do jump into Champ Select, the teams are reversed, which means that London United on the blue side, first ones to ban away, and it will be the Vayne once again.
Yep, so they have opted to take blue side as the loser can select the side and go from there. And then we see a Vayne ban, we see Rel ban, so it suggests they don't play it. And I guess they're going to go for a very similar strategy. And maybe there'll be a different preference of what gets picked when, but from the looks of it, it looks like they're going to go in a similar fashion. Unless...
Oh, that's the Zillion ban going to be the final one away. I think that the fresh priority could still be very much in force. We know that that the Heathen loves this champion, so could well be looking to grab the same one. But a couple of powerful champs still being available, with the Seraphine ban still having not been made. That could be an option if Lucent don't take it away.
That is the one change that has switched on sides, so Seraphine is now enabled, which we may see when now they're going to have that debate of, okay, Seraphine is open. Yeah, well...
Not a very long debate.
Wasn't much of a debate. That was more of a, should we take it? And then the other guy just going, yeah, I think so. And then running with it. And now we're going to look at Lucent, go, okay, we let Seraphine through. Who screwed this one up? And then try and work out what we should do. And I would assume that a Thresh answer, if it goes down to bot lane, would be a good way. You can get a kill lane. We saw that he put prior on it before. And then the opposite is in mid lane. You could be looking at something like an assassin because of the changes on 11.6. which actually enables some assassins to come into play, or they just accept Seraphine may go mid and they take a scaling matchup. And
yeah, I mean, they could look to grab the lane partner or a jungler. Lilia has made her way through this ban stage as well. Of course, the other one that was banned out first rotation last time that didn't make it out this time around, but it's going to be the Skarner being locked in, which is actually something that we know London United for more than we know it from Lucent.
So they're taking a play out of their book and saying, okay, you can do it, we can do it better, and let's see how it works out. If anyone isn't worried, like Skarner basically can ult, Thresh puts the lantern down, Skarner can use the lantern while ulting somebody and drag them into their team, which is, coincidentally, rather good for Seraphine and being able to bring her in, squishy target. So we see more engage being piled into here, like Marwa just looks and says, okay, give me the job, and it's time.
It is time for me to gank level 3 and then to never farm my jungle afterwards. Now I'm going to pick up the very, very aggressive jungler, and we'll have to see what is going to be selected alongside. Still opportunity for Marksman. The Ezreal was pretty good from Kum last game. Could look to grab the Kai'Sa as well. We know him for both, and he would deny it away from Vanguard, who had a very, very good game last time around on it. But it's going to be the Nautilus being locked in, which very interesting in that it completely shows your hand where the Seraphine's going.
It does show whether... It doesn't fully show it, because you could just still put it down into bot lane as the carry that farms in the lane. So it's still available, it's still there, but I would put odds on that it's likely going to end up in mid lane. And I think that's more likely given how Kum and how London have played through Kum. It seems rather backwards. Oh, okay, well...
this will be a blast.
So... Here's the thing, Ziggs is going to follow wherever Seraphine should go, in theory. And the way I'm going to look at this is I'm going to pull this out of just backwards knowledge here, that Ziggs is going to just keep priority, keep Seraphine pinned under turret, and then you can play off of him, and he can like annihilate turrets quickly. So you may see maybe a preference onto Tristana as well if they play it through mid lane. And then you can actually just have a really fast turret pushing composition that plays on tempo. Would be really nice to see, but I think we're just seeing a reiteration of the same bans on second rotations from last draft phase, where we saw Wukong Gong, Camille gone, and then we'll see what else is going to come out. But I don't think top lane is going to be particularly the ones to start banning, if I'm honest.
No, I think there's an opportunity for London to ban something new in this rotation because they've already got rid of the Zillion. They could look to take away something like the Kaiser, unless they expect Vayngod to go into the bot lane with that Ziggs, which I personally don't expect to see that. Of these two marksmen, it's Kum who's much more likely to play something a little bit rogue down on that bot side. With the Mordekaiser taken away, that's an interesting one, considering that Victoria last game wasn't too convincing for large swathes of it.
I mean, it wasn't convincing, but I definitely think there are some draft options that, if they were going to look for it, like Caitlyn Morg. Imagine you see Thresh Skarner, like Morgana, Caitlyn there, you just answer with. Like, Skarner hates having Morgana in the game. Like, literally hates it. He can't actually, he's not a champion if Black Shield is around. The other one that I was looking at is maybe you can also look at Xayah as well as being quite a nice rotation to deny Skarner ult, and then she's fine on her own, and then still fits to Kum being able to play his lane. See a Jinx pick come in here, which suggests that they think the Seraphine is going to go to the mid lane.
It's interesting. It's definitely a brave decision. Don't want to be looking at Seraphine in the hands of Kum, but we'll get confirmation of that with these last couple of pickups. We expect very much to see a top laner here, unless we're going back to Season 4, when Nautilus used to ruin that lane with his Emax nonsense. And Null would kind of make sense. It's quite a safe top lane pickup, gives that engage, it's a bit tanky as well, and maybe a smart blind from Victoria.
Range matchup, you can't punish it all too much. And with Camille being gone, it made sense. They put two and two together. The other one, though, I'm looking at here is then, are they going to send Seraphine into bot lane, or are they going to keep it in mid and take an AD carry that's going to scale?
Oh, there's an AD carry that scales.
Yep. So Kog'Maw, in the recent patches, if anyone's been paying attention, has been receiving a number of buffs to his percentile damage, which, looking at the composition from Lucent, though, I'm still a little bit wary of, like, what could happen here. But at the same time, it looks like they might be putting it mid lane, and it... Okay, no, they're screwing with me on the trades.
They're just messing with you a little bit.
Yeah, I can't believe they've done this.
The monk special.
Yeah. But Kog'Maw going into bot lane, I would assume Jinx would get prio from rockets to begin with. But Kog'Maw obviously loves this. He's just going to say, thank you very much. I'll happily scale. And then you're looking at the engage options. You have a Thresh Hook and a Skarner R. So he buys QSS and then goes and just walks to the bank and says, you know, well, I'll take my free game now, slaps the token on the table and says, yep, thank you very much. Seraphine's going to protect him. Jarvan is a lovely engaged, Nao engaged, being able to tank for him, create a front line. And Lucent need to rely on Ziggs and Jinx getting fed and putting out poke and being able to hit priority targets. Like Ziggs, Jace at poke in positions is going to be really difficult to deal with. But there comes a point where if that poke doesn't land, Seraphine heals through it. There's a real problem there for Lucent in this draft.
And it's a weird one, because you look at Jinx, I was thinking when you pick Jinx, okay, Vayngod on a late game carry, one of the strongest hyper carries in the game, can put out absolutely tons of damage, going to be difficult for London United to deal with this in the late game, and then Kog'Maw just like, you know what, I'm gonna be picked up this game, and things are gonna look pretty good in the later stages. And again, you can see London United have done this thing where they pick up a champion that bridges them into the later stages. Jarvan, again, likes to gank early and often, does a similar job to the Olaf, but want to be seeing this Jarvan going tanky after the first couple of items, or maybe just after the first item, to make sure that he can be really relevant going into the later stages, because that's where London United want to be. So
you need to really look at here and saying that Lucent, though, you still have Jace versus Gnar, which is a wonderful matchup to Jace if you path towards him. Ziggs versus Seraphine. Ziggs is going to keep prio. Jinx is going to keep prio. Jace gets prio. You have three lanes pushing in here that, like, if you're Jarvan, that is a nightmare fuel scenario where you have three losing lanes, or what should be three losing lanes, based on, like, how matchups should be played. There's room for that to change, obviously, like, based on player skill and skill checks and whatnot. But first couple Drakes should go over to Lucent. London Comps comes online at like third Drake. Then we start to see team fights and how they interact with each other. You've got a poke comp versus a team fight comp. And there's no, like, aside from Skarner, there's no tank. Jalvin's just going to engage on you from 2 screens away. I don't know. Like, it fits both teams' personalities of what we spoke about, though. Like, it's very Lucent to turn around and say, oh yeah, let's just pick skill check lanes and beat the ever-loving crap out of, like, London's solo laners, which kind of did happen last game. Will we see it again?
These are the questions, but the way that Lucent went about the early game last time was, let's beat the crap out of Victorio, and Nice Gun was like, I will also beat the crap out of Victorio. And Articuno was like, I guess I'm just going to push all game. But it's going to be much more difficult for Ziggs to roam around so effectively because he can't teleport.
Precisely.
Which is, he still has the ability to ult and stuff, and he's still going to be looking to move around the map quite a lot because Lucent loved doing that, and Nice Guy Dom loves doing that on pretty much any champion he plays. But if we're talking about these compositions kind of being similar in terms of vibe, for want of a better word, from what we saw last time, we were both confident on Lucent winning that last game, and you were confident on the 2-0. But I'm looking at these two compositions, and I'm much hotter on London's this time around.
Depends on how you view the game. If you get to those team fights and you're not already 5 or 6k gold down, then yeah, sure. But I'm looking at Lucent and I'm like, I see opportunities for them to accelerate that lead. I see them being able to punish these picks, like, in lane. And historically, I've seen that happen, and I know for a fact that they're going to create some kind of gold lead. It will be harder, don't get me wrong, without that DFO. Like, as you say, I think they're going to have to play a little bit more sophisticated, less ooga booga to, like, you know, let's just bash heads. It has to be a little bit more refined now with rotations. But I have to follow through this now. I can't, like, back out. I've said 2-0, so I don't have a choice. Even if I did prefer London's composition as ease of to play and just being nicer and, like, slightly just easier. But at the end of the day, I predicted 2-0, so Lucent have to win.
And I predicted 2-1, which means London have to win this game. So after that point, it's fine. I win either way if London United win this series. And it's... I mean, I'm really excited for both of these teams, looking towards potentially going into those UKLC playoff games. And we've got Viperia going to be representing as well, who have had an amazing season and have shown up consistently across the board. So there could be some very, very exciting choices in terms of who's going to be joining that league. And of course, I believe it is Demise and Bulldog who will be facing up against them coming down from the UKLC, which means that we're in a very, very weird situation where those 4 teams in power level, regardless of who wins this series, are advantage Lucent right now. But if London United do go through and turn this one around 2-1, any 2 of those 4 teams could well look to compete in the UKLC. And again, any 2 of those 4 teams could come down to the UKEL. And coming down to this level is not a guarantee of success by any means. You look at Nerd Rage this season. They came down, they were in the promotion series just at the beginning of the season because of a couple of changes. And they're a mid-table team here rather than a dominant force.
I think the changes at that point may have been a little excessive to the point where, like, I think they did a complete facelift. But yeah, your point remains. Like, I think the UKEL is fast catching up with some of, like, the lower tier UKLC and even the mid tier UKLC. Like, the gap is closing, and you're no longer safe. Like, you go to these relegations, you are not safe. Like, so yeah, we'll see who makes it through. I mean, you're betting on London, I'm betting on Lucent. Let's see how it plays out. I mean,
well, I'm betting on London this game. I'm leaving my options open for a third game. Whoever can win that one up, I'll see draft there. But yeah, it's really exciting times for UK League of Legends because, of course, the relegation series as well coming through. We've got Munster and Mythos representing UKL in that one. I've seen a couple of the rosters for teams looking to get into those open qualifiers. Some of them are pretty spicy. A couple of big names involved there, but no leaks from me.
No leaks.
No leaks from this guy, but it's definitely going to be very, very exciting. And of course, with Orgs, we had our first Academy roster with Demise Academy coming through this season, doing exceptionally well. We know that both London Esports, not to be confused with London United, and Resolve have both been talking about wanting to put together rosters to compete as well. So good times ahead. But one of these teams, bad times ahead.
Let's jump back to the present on this one, because we're going into the future, but we still have a game to play here. Both teams are in a very important stage. And as we're looking here, you're just seeing Wilhelm start on his top side and path away from the Jace to allow Jinx and Thresh to get into lane first and maybe keep their prio. Whereas Jarvan, nothing from bot to top side. He's basically skipping out on a full clear to go into a 3-camp clear, which then would give him tempo to maybe look for a Jace that might overextend here. Or he just does 3 camps and then just secures this, takes his Gromp and doubles back.
And wants to be able to scrap over the scuttles as well, especially into the matchup with Skarner in the mid side. What do we expect to see from Seraphine Ziggs? Because Ziggs isn't a champion that we get to see all that often.
This is the lane that you don't want to watch. It will literally just turn into, I've hit abilities on the wave, you've hit abilities on the wave, and they don't interact. So if someone does die there, I'm willing to stake my name on it and say that that is a complete mistake by the player, rather than anyone being particularly amazing, because these matchups shouldn't allow it. Okay. The lane we really want to be watching is both top and bot, because now we've got junglers pathing different ways, and Marwa here is looking to go on to Jace.
Oh, nice knockback from Jace though. Going to get knocked up, and the flash forward will mean a flash in return. I won't lose. Should be able to back away close enough to tower, looking to turn a bit of damage down onto Victoria. No assistance from Skarner though. Wilhelm just finishing his clear up on the bot side. And the bot lane fast gained as well.
Brangus just refuses to let someone gank him. He just said no, and then it didn't happen.
Ooh, turning around onto Victoria, needs to be careful. I won't lose this time around. As he's able to make that quite a favourable position for him.
So, excellent use of hammer form. He knocks Gnar away as he jumps into him, and then as Jarvan comes in, he gets knocked up. However, Gnar is not able to follow up. Not to mention that he kind of gave the gank away. He probably should have been a bit more patient and waited for Jace to walk forwards and commit to taking a minion. They didn't allow enough space. The gank fails. Jarvan wastes his time. Skarner loves this now because he's seen Jarvan on the other side. He now gets his counter punch by coming in and saying, "Oh, that's a nice raptor camp. Ooh, that's nice. Oh, I'll take that as well." And Jarvan is now looking at this and saying, well, guys, I'd really like to play the game. So he's using his bot lane to potentially, with his prio here, to try and keep vision. But they're in a slow push that's pushing away from them, and Wilhelm is sat, ready and waiting.
And the Death Sentence will land from Zerg. He can try and get the flare away. Will be able to do so, but not into the Chompers as the Heathen, keeping Wilhelm out of the fight. The re-engage coming through from Nautilus. A little bit brave, but getting a decent amount of damage onto Vanguard. Mauer has shown up, making this one a 3v3. Both marksmen very, very low. Everyone else feeling pretty healthy. Wilhelm will flash away from the knockup, but it's going to be caught up in that Death Sentence. Flash away from the Jarvan now as the Heathen going to be caught up. Everyone going so low, but the Heathen cannot find a way out. First blood going over to the bot lane of Lucent, and the flash forward from Vanguard with the zap will secure the double for the Jinx. Not someone you want to be donating kills over to at this early stage. Mauer hanging around so many low members from Lucent, but Jarvan doesn't have the ability to take down all three.
And this is where we really hit on London with their early laning, just completely disrespect on wave management. They got a slow push pushed into them, and then on wave 4 and 5 to 6, it's going to slow push away from you.
Ooh, Articuno, fancy feet, picks up the kill, but is also very unhealthy.
Well, I guess Articuno just says, I want to be like the saving light in both games, and says, I've showed up, where's the rest of my team? I'm being harsh here because these kind of plays, you're in a do or die situation. These things kind of can't be happening. Like, you're in a slow push pushing away from you, and your Jarvan has committed all resources top, shown everything, and now you're stuck in a slow push that's pushing away from you, and in a Kog'Maw lane. Like, let me get that clear. Like, this guy needs protection, needs waves, needs to be coddled to 2 items. And just doesn't come out. Lucent pick up the kills, and now they move on to Drake here for London, noticing that they were on resets and got pushing.
Having a Infernal Dragon will be nice in the early stages, especially for the matchups you look like Victoria, who's not having a great time right now, will like that little bit of extra poke damage onto the Jace, and denying Jace that poke damage is also pretty good. But we moved to this point. Vanguard once again has found himself, for want of a better term, a little bit fed in the early game, and now it looks like London United want to try and shut this one down as quickly as possible. Mauer can't find the engage, is spotted out on a ward and has to back away. And with Articuno committing time to move down bot, it gives Ziggs enough time to deny some waves. And London scrabbling for anything to do in the early game, and it's not working for them so far.
So Seraphine, because she was able to get the 1v1 off somehow, I don't think that should be happening in this lane, but it does. She was able to get a free roam because she got a first move over Ziggs. She tries to use that in bot lane, being Gordon Zerg here, realizing the situation, act accordingly, and play it around very well just with game knowledge. Stay safe. Now they can push out. In the meantime, Wilhelm here, being extra cheeky and just taking more and more camps away, and he's hit his vital level 6, while Marwa is still struggling at level 5 in return.
If he was being extra cheeky, he'd be playing Darius. So, just turn around Skarner. He's get towards Articuno. Won't be able to find the gank properly and will be forced to back away. And we've gone back to that really uninteractive bot lane, mid lane even, that we were talking about. Bot lane's been a little bit too interactive for London United so far. And then on the top side, Jace having a pretty decent time into Nara. Is this how we expect this matchup to look?
This is precisely how it looks. So Nar has a window. He's still ranged. Like, he shouldn't be down like 4 waves, 5 waves. But there is a massive slow push that's coming into him that will help catch him up a little bit. But that is how the matchup goes. Jace, as I said, is something that decides to punish Nar. It's built to do that. And Rengus is just being a big boy and showing what he can do. And
flashing forward from the Heathen, managed to get the snare up, and Zerg will be knocked up, and a nice double flame will keep him alive. The Cataclysm comes down, and now the Fresh gets the flash away. Articuno has shown up, but so has Wilhelm. Everyone getting out alive again. London commit members, commit resources, and don't gain any kills.
London, I feel like, are kind of hitting the panic button a little bit. They're trying to overforce these plays. Like, it was a good setup, but then Heathen mechanically misplays here, which it happens. But I think the pressure might be starting to get to them. They're trying to force things to make it happen when it's not that great, and it's resulting in them losing out and also losing waves. And now we're looking at nearly a 2,000 gold lead, or fast approaching by about 9 minutes.
Which is not where you want to be giving Hive any kind of lead, because early game, mid game is completely there. We are Lucent, sorry, not Hive anymore. The artist formerly known as Hive.
You're allowed one.
I'm allowed one, and I've just used it up. Articuno going to be caught out in the mid lane. He's not allowed one though, as he's going to fall low and be taken out by Nice Guy Dom. Very, very simple one, and Mauer still just continuing to grab himself up of that rift. Herald will be able to take it very, very slowly but surely, as Wilhelm scuttling on up to try and catch him out. But Lucent, ooh, the guns blazing this time around.
I will give London their credit. They've managed to find neutrals in situations where they shouldn't have been able to do it, and I feel like the neutral control by Lucent is actually kind of abysmal. Like, I mean this in the sense that you have a pushing lane in top, you have a pushing lane in mid where you've just allocated resources with Thresh and Skarner. Surely that should mean that you should be able to contest that Herald and not just give it away for free. It makes no sense that London can go from committing 4 people in bot lane to then taking Herald for free.
And it's weird because this is something that we compliment Lucent on so frequently. Their ability to control objectives has always been something really, really impressive. Wilhelm has been a very good jungler at moving around and making it difficult. They've been very good at skirmishing around the early ones and team fighting around the late ones in order to give themselves an excellent opportunity to get either over the line and finish games, or to try and stabilize and keep themselves in games where things haven't looked so good. But this series, it hasn't really been the case so much.
And I mean, the other one is, I was watching who was coming out of base, and I saw Jinx basically recalling and thinking that Herald was still available for them, and she started walking to top. They thought that they were going to be able to move for Herald here, but Jarvan's already taking it. Like, I think some of the reads on their rotations and just their overall usage of tempo is a little off in this game. They need to reassess themselves, start actually building setups properly, and then looking for the Drake. So we're seeing here, Drake time is coming up. No one's on the mid wave, but I believe bot lane is or should be pushing for them. But I think we're just going to end up in a little bit of a standoff, really.
Yeah, we're going to be dropping Retailed mid, London wanting to get some gold down and cause some pressure where they can, but members are quickly rotating from Lucent. They don't want to let this charge happen. They don't want to give the gold over. But the Herald will be able to grab a little bit for Mauer and Articuno. But Now everyone can move back towards the dragon since the mid lane situation has been resolved by Lucent, and this dragon should well go over to the boys in red. A lot of wave clear coming down from Nice Guy Dom, trying to secure as much as possible, and there we go. Mountain Drag secured, Lucent back on the board.
So Drake secured in this time. Nah picking up his waves, pushing them in, and now Malwa is looking to see if Jace is going to be rotating. He doesn't spot him. Okay, let's see if they're going to pull the trigger, and if they go...
Oh, he knew. He threw that Q into the bush, and Mara forced to move away with his tail between his legs. Victoria actually in the bot side. We're going to see a fight, and they've managed to suppress the Heathen. He'll be going down before the anchor even lands, and now Kun left alone, festooned under tower. Yes, there's no Skarner ultimate, but with the Ziggs moving on down, has to give that one up. I won't lose, will die in the end as Mara flashes over the wall to survive from the tower. So dives on both sides of the map, working wonders. That's going on, keeping Kum away, and towers will
Jinx rocket, Jinx
look
rocket,
at
Jinx
that
rocket.
Jigsaw. Look at the Java, look at the Gnar.
Oh,
Does get a kill,
I think
it's
it
fine.
missed. Don't worry. I got excited for no reason.
I was so excited. It was like Jigsaw, and then we saw Jigsaw.
I just saw it flying on the map, and I was hoping that we might be able to see it, and I'm gonna. It's probably just like completely whiffed. Absolutely fine. We move on here, so we look at here, and you go, okay, from the trades, Lucent is going to win out. They got a first turret from the looks of things. However, to do this, they might end up with a bad base here, which could give map control over to London, which London could then look to try and take mid lane turret. But it looks like they're just going to try and annoy them on their bases and not let them base.
They're going to look to press anything up. It's difficult to push into a Ziggs, but they are looking to get the fight on to Vanguard. Death Sentence lands to try and get Vanguard away. The heal was used, but a flash roll from Kum gives Korkmore the shutdown, and now going to be moving forward. Members of both teams looking to defend the Heathen. Diving on through, trying to keep Zerg away, and will do just that. Now we're hanging around, but just for defense more than anything, as Wilhelm might try and re-engage this.
So this is another example of Lucent not really respecting the tempo that exists in the game, where they likely should have based earlier so that then they would be reaching these neutral waves at the same time that London also do so. Like, also gets them mid lane, or the bot wave even. Because they don't do that, they then have to stay in base while Kog'Maw is able to get economy advantage, and it creates a scenario where then they're able to look for kills. Wilhelm here with the reactions of an Olympian.
No reactions to dodge out that flag, and Dragon Kun picks up another teleport coming through now from London United. Articuno is here, and the banners have been called. They want to be pushing down this bot lane, grabbing themselves their first tower of the game. Mauer looking to move forward. The ultimate won't land from Articuno, but they do manage to take down the structure.
Well, from the looks of this, they're investing resources into saying, okay, let's get Kum fed, let's do this, which is working out for them because of the tempo, or the disrespect of tempo from Lucent. Now they've been given a kill over, now they've given a turret over, now they've given basically more deaths from Skarner, and they're just feeding into London. And now London are back. They're on even gold again. It's an even footing, which, if you said that 2 or 3 minutes ago, you would have said that Lucent should be the ones just fully accelerating and hitting the gas in this game, and it's just not happening.
Not happening right now, but they still have a decent number of tools that they can use to look and try and grab themselves the gold lead once again. But with no neutral objects up for a minute and a half, it's going to be a quiet period unless we get a pick or two. Zerg and the Heathen, both members who could look to try and facilitate that, but we'll be looking to get onto Kum to flare over the wall, will keep him in damage range, and there's a shutdown on it to the Kog'Maw. The Heathen going to be in a lot of trouble as well. Double kill going over to Jace. Victorio not interested in getting involved, but Rift Herald will be started up.
I just don't understand. Like, the wave is literally sat neutral in the lane. Just push the wave, and then once you see Jinx catching said wave, then you can clear the vision.
Another catch will be found in the mid lane. It's 2v2. Vanguard caught in the cast, though, will be knocked down by the Gnar and the Jarvan. A double kill going over as Victoria looking to chase towards Wilhelm, but it's kind of a little bit too speedy for any of that. But just like that, the fight is evened up. Articuno forced to flash away to make sure that he's not a victim of the Ziggs bomb, but should be able to survive for now.
I'd like to say that this is starting to become really scrappy, where teams aren't setting up properly or respecting what each other is doing. It's quite literally just brute forcing things now. And that's not a compliment nor me trying to disrespect either team, but this is the game state that has been given. You're just seeing kills go left and right, people misstepping, people out of position, and I'm starting to think that maybe they're feeling that pressure of saying we need to win this game, so they're not making the best decisions possible for themselves anymore. As we start to see here, Ocean Drake is available, so they are going to try and look to play this slow, and I think London, I'd like to say that they're going to be the ones that are a bit more disciplined in these situations. 2 years together, they should be saying, okay, let's calm it down, let's get mid-pro together, let's actually just try to clean this up a little bit for ourselves, move Gnar in, and as you see here, they get their mid-pro, they've got the position, and now hopefully that discipline starts to pay off as they start to slow it down a little bit.
Slowed it down, I've started up the Dragon. Don't want to be doing this one slowly. Teleport coming down from Lucent. They want to be picking up the fight. Wilhelm moving forward. Can he get a catch? Yes, he can. Onto the Heathen, though, who isn't necessarily the priority target, as members are looking through. Don't fight London in a choke, but on the side, Vanguard is working wonders. Yes, the tackle is still alive, but it doesn't matter when an untouched Jinx is moving on through. Jace there as well. Mauer chased away as the Nautilus falls. The one called out goes down fourth. But that fight, all about Lucent. They'll pick themselves up the Dragon after a very, very nice coordinated fight.
So London here, they decide to chase up into the choke point, which then the rest of Lucent can then basically wrap around and flank from the sides. You've got Vayne, Dom that are completely untouched. They committed fully to a support and a Skada, which is never going to go well for you. However, they committed together as a team and they failed as a team. But the return here is Lucent call out ahead. They pick up their Drake. Very happy with that, and I think they might look for mid here, and also, if they're really going to push it, might look for the Herald too.
Could do. Vanguard pretty low, does need to be careful with Kum moving on up, doing a decent amount of damage, but the excitedness of Vanguard will be able to get them out of dodge. 4-2-4, having another very, very good game. So dependable this season in the early to mid stages, and a couple of the late game decision making has been a little bit off, but speaking of a little bit off, there's a... Seraphine, what's going on?
Well, sucks. That's all I'm going to say. Like, I'm just moving on. Like, you put Seraphine into a side lane with a Jace. What did you think was going to happen? I think she went to accepted a wave, just one, and Jace realized this and said, no, that's illegal. You can't do that. And we see a Jinx rocket go flying by, which about sums up this game so far, with each team taking it in turns to see who is going to take up and step up for the next minute or two. Herald traded away because, once again, Vanguard, he looks for mid-turret, looks to put gold into himself, but trades away objectives because he has to reset, because he's off map. So if Lucent keep doing this, where they keep trying to look for too much off a play and then in return giving gold back over to London, we could very well see the same thing happen as before, where London start to catch up again as a team. However, the real problem point I'm seeing now is if you're looking at that Ziggs and you're looking at that Jinx, just look where the gold is situated. And onto Jace as well.
The blue buff reset has to feel pretty bad, and now it's going to take a while to get that one, giving Wilhelm and Zerg the time to move into the enemy jungle, and we'll be able to spot this one being taken, but I don't think the Skarner's going to have very much to say about it unless he can catch out Mauer as he's looking to rotate through. We'll be looking for the stun, won't be able to land it. Landed to safety, but not the lantern to death for Mauer. London United able to move back towards this mid lane and try and get the siege going once again.
I think that might be mid lane going down. Ziggs and Jace, they do have their TP.
Ooh, engage on the tower though. Huge Zephyr will catch out the Skarner, who will fall down. Vanguard has to flash away as the Heathen caught in the characters himself. Now double kill for Kum on the side in the mid lane, and there goes the tower after a very, very nice engage. They still got Rift Herald, remember. They've still got that battering ram, which will be dropped now as London United might look to try and brute force this objective. Jigsaw will land onto Articuno this time around. Zigzag not going to do the same, and the re-engage coming in onto the side. Jason's looking for a flank, but only found a tomb as Kum picks up a belated triple and continues on towards Cogmore levels.
So, that whole point of me saying, by the way, London will keep punishing this as a 5-man. So both solo laners are showing on neutral waves and side lanes. Of course they're going to hit that trigger. It's Seraphine ult plus Gnar going forwards plus Jarvan. There is so much engage here. And now they're looking to try and force Baron off this, knowing that Jace is still dead. He does have his TP, so we're on a tight situation here with 10 seconds to go. Looks like they are going to give up.
Yeah, which does make some kind of sense. You don't want to be overextending, overforcing when your health bars are not there. someone like Vanguard with the passive
problem,
can
though.
just go through and
They can't recall all at once.
Oh, Mauer hanging around, but it's the only one who's able to hang around. Everyone else has gone. The teleport will be coming down from Articuno and Victoria. They're both going to be moving in for this fight. But there aren't members of London here. Cogmore's not here. Nautilus isn't here. Members of Lucent have given themselves a numbers advantage, but they need to be very, very careful. Their health bar is going to be taken down by the Purple Worm, and Engage has to come through as Wilhelm looks to catch onto Articuno. He moves into the bush to avoid being clicked.
They are all peeling off.
Now
Both
Lucent
teams
peeling
here
away,
struggling.
but the Engage going through from Nautilus as the ultimate will land onto Fresh as well. Two members of Lucent are forced to back away from the fight, but the re-engage from Vanguard is so big. Victoria goes so low, and the double kill from I Won't Lose, followed by the super mega death rocket as a triple kill for Chase comes on down. The sniper won't manage to find Coom, but it is going to be the team fight win for Lucent as Vanguard, Zerg, and I Won't Lose is back towards this Baron.
Great game for the viewers, but both teams showing they're trying to just bite off more than they can chew. London, they pull off a wonderful dive in the mid lane, and then what should have happened there is a reset and just taking off with the gold that they had. They bit off more than they could, resulting in them having to take bad bases, gave map position back over to Lucent. Lucent take full advantage, and now you're looking at this, you gave a free Baron over, and what wave clear do you have? You don't. They're going to go into potentially a 4-1 or a 1-3-1 and create all kinds of problems for you. And the Ocean Drake realistically doesn't matter. They can just set up so much pressure in their lanes and not actually have to teamfight over this.
Precisely, and we're in a similar position that we were last game at around the same time. Now the question here is, are Lucent going to give London the opportunity to get back into the game that we saw them do last time around? Because they gave up that second Baron, they gave up a lot of priority in a lot of lanes, allowed London United to fight their way back in, and now Mauer going to try and get the steal off, but the Dragon's not low enough. Nice ultimate from Seraphine will rip through the team, tries to dive one through, won't be able to get the steal down though, and the Cataclysm is used, but not going to be able to survive. It's going to be objective and kill on the side of Lucent.
The part I don't get is, why do London need to commit all 5 people to try and go for a Drake steal? Why not just send Marwa on his own, and the 4-man then starts clearing every single wave possible before these Baron waves, so Lucent don't have a wave to play with. They don't have anything that they can then go straight to mid lane with after killing your jungler. But, hey. We're going to now see Ziggs, Siege, and also Jinx, plus having what is a pseudo-poke comp where Jace is going to win on side, and the gold lead once again is ballooning for Lucent.
This time around, it seems like they're playing this one very safely, playing these side lanes well, which is what we saw from them last time, to be fair. We're seeing it once again, but now they're trying to get that pick, get themselves that breakthrough that will allow them to crack the base open. All the objectives outside the base have fallen, all of them in the hands of Lucent right now, and London United still have the Cogmore, still can look to stabilise, but it's going to become harder and harder to do so.
Yep. The sad point is that as they were starting to ramp up and go from that mid lane play where it looked so good for London, is they then would have based and hit that 2-item spike with Seraphine, with Moonstone and Staff, and you then have Grimstone available to you, and it would have been a team-fighting nightmare. I would have said actually that London would have been in priority control. Now we're 5 minutes into that future, and this is the one that we've been given. Lucent here with Baron, just rotating around, taking tier 2s out of the place. Maybe they need to basically work on pushing London back into their base, having full control over the map, and then maybe they need one extra Baron to fully end this game. But they could quite happily just siege with Ziggs and Jace right now.
We'll have to see if they go for that slower route or try and force with the faster, whether they've learnt lessons from last game, or whether we'll see history repeat itself. Of course, history does favour Lucent in this matchup, but
Although it favoured the bold.
yeah, well, we'll have to see if it favours the bold, because there's been some pretty bold plays in this series so far that haven't favoured the ones making them. So we'll have to keep our eyes peeled, but Jace on the side lane going to feel super comfortable. I Won't Lose. We haven't talked about too much in this game individually, but is playing very, very well into Victoria today.
Yep, full credit here. Rangus on his Jace play, and also the game prior where he was on his Aatrox, has been doing exceptionally well into Victoria. if you highlighted what would have been like the weak spots on London, which is their early to mid game, but also that like Victorio does like to be that blind pick. He that's his kind of comfort zone. He is the blind pick on this team that presents a position in the draft that you can punish it, and they have done so. And now Lucent in a really nice spot. I just want to see how they're going to close out, because there's a minion wave that's being pushed into Cogmore that's not being pressured at all. Now Cog is actually just picking up a free mid wave here, and there's no real pressure now that tier 2s have dropped. They're just waiting for the Ocean Drake. London probably should be getting pushed into their base now, and really made to feel the differential in gold. But
we might see Nautilus feeling of the pain as he's dragged on through with that brutal combination. Survives a little bit longer than maybe he should have.
What are they doing?
Diving in to try and save him. Will just be taking a lot of damage. Articuno caught out on the side as well. The Cataclysm does come on through. And here's the Nautilus. It's a really messy team fight. But London are trying to make as much of it as they can. First kill going over to them in this one. But that's going to be all she wrote. It's actually going to be a 2-for-1. London United make it work.
Huge ultimates from Seraphine, Jarvan, and Gnar, all coming together to create a nice wombo combo. I was thinking, what are they doing? I genuinely saw Nautilus going in, and then I saw Marwa go in after, and I thought, this is lights out. Like, they're going to just kill Marwa here. He somehow uses his flash, gets out of the CC chain, and then immediately everyone follows up with their ultimates. And coincidentally, we did hit on that Lucent are a bit squishier. They don't really have a tank outside of Skarner, who's going to be going backwards in the fight, not forwards. So, credit to London here. They create a situation where they pull out a win, and Ocean Drake is 30 seconds away.
Now you can see this dragon going to be up on the map in 20 seconds time. Lucent wanting to grab this one for Soul. Again, it's not going to be the biggest issue if they do, but it's going to be another nail in London United's pocket. And a lot of damage coming on through from the Ziggs. The poke is insane from Jace, from Ziggs, from...
Seraphine ult is on cooldown. That's the vital one. You see Gnar ult, you see Nautilus ult.
Bauer going for the Cataclysm, but flash away from Vayne. 9 lose already on the side, already ripping up the backline. There's no one left coming through from London United. Mauer falls, Victoria chased away, but won't be able to escape. It's the clean ace coming through from Lucent. They don't care about this dragon anymore. They're looking towards the base, and with a bot lane wave, they might have just punched themselves a ticket out of this series.
Lucent there played that fight really well, found the flanks again, and London just refused to respect flanks. They refused to turn around and say, maybe we should just go for the Jace who's on his own, maybe we could do something else, and just accept the Ocean is going to go over. But today, I think because of that, the death timers are going to be close, but it should just be game over.
Yeah, second Nexus tower falls, and with it, the Nexus will go, looking for a little bit of damage down on the side, trying to pad those KDA. He's going to pick up one more onto Kumkum for the Jace before Nexus goes down, and Lucent will be going into our next series, looking for a place in the UKEL final and finding themselves a place in the promotion series. But much, much better from Lucent that time around.
Yep. They played fairly well, we'll give it to them. Like, there were some, I was going at them for their tempo usage, like the tools they had available to them while they were ahead. They were allowing London to have opportunities to come back out on map and have control. But to their credit, they played around the team fights well. Like, they really hit it home when they had their advantages, and they did exactly as they were asked. And London's composition could never really get online, like, until it was too late. And then even then, I mean, they were getting outplayed left, right, and centre. And
let's talk about London United a little bit, because obviously it's the final series they're going to play this split in the UKEL, so finishing in 4th position, which is where they finished in regular season, so consistency there. But consistency is something that we can talk about this team for a lot, because they're the only team that consistently kept the same players. They're the only team that have like played together for so long, haven't found success in a way that finds them a position in the UKLC. But consistently finishing top half in UKEL, this is a roster that I want to see them continue with, because if they can develop, they've had clearly stronger coaching this time around. Their management has been good as well, much more consistent as an organization in terms of everything, every facet of what they've been doing. And if they can keep these players together, there's UKLC talent in this roster. It's very, very clear to see. If they can keep every single player together and can just go that one step further, I'd be really, really happy to see that. But This time round, it wasn't to be.
Yeah, it wasn't to be today. I could be brutal, and I think at this point we'd be kicking them while they're down. I mean, I would never want to do this. Like, they've lost the series, so commiserations. And if you're looking at this and you're saying your team fighting was excellent, your late game to what was macro in terms of London was also basically in the top half of the league. That's what's getting them the wins. Next time when they come round, work on that early game. Maybe opt in to a few more plays on the early and really see and test those limits. Like, and keep improving and pushing yourself in that first 10 to 15 minutes, because that's where Lucent were really hitting home on like the differentials. If you focus on that, then I could definitely see them coming back a lot stronger and being in that top three, and then pushing through into that relegation promotion series for the UKEL.
Which is where these players want to be. I know where the organisation wants to be, and we've got ourselves a little bit of a graphic to show exactly what's going to be happening for the rest of the UKEL season. So, of course, 2-0 for Lucent sees them into that losers final against Viperio. That's going to be happening at 2:30 today, so about 45 minutes time we're going to be kicking that one off. Another best of three to see who will be taking Demise Academy on in our best of 5 finals tomorrow. I believe that's going to be kicking off at 12, so the same time that this series kicked off. But that is all that myself and Reclamation have time for, because when we come back with our next series, it's going to be the amazing Trajan and Melvin Izzle taking you through those ones. But keep your eyes peeled. We might not be done with the UKEL just yet. But for myself, Viper, and from Reclamation, thank you so much for joining us. Don't go too far, because in 40 minutes, we're going into that losers final. Viperio will be taking on Lucent. We'll see you then.